What's going on, everyone? Shock Moto here. Wanted to have a quick video and actually talk to you guys a little bit about who I am, the bike I ride, what I want my channel to be about, and kind of show you where I'm at in my progression as a rider, show you where I'm kind of at with my shifting, my downshifting. I unfortunately still need to upgrade my microphone equipment, so I'm not going to be getting on the freeway today, not going to be getting at any speeds that we would get enough wind noise to really ruin the video here. So I'm Brad, first and foremost. I've been riding for about 4 months now, so this is really kind of my beginning stages as a rider. I do focus on best practices. I try to be the safest rider that I can be, but I do have a tendency to be a tiny bit of a squid sometimes, and that's just part of why we love motorcycles. So I can accept that about myself as long as I keep that margin of error, you know, fairly for that safety cushion, you know, large enough to where my mistakes aren't fatal. First thing I wanted to do here is show you my bike, talk to you about why I got this bike, what I like about it. I've only had it for about 2.5, 3 weeks now, so honestly I still have a lot of room to discover what I like and what I don't like. But I did start riding on a Honda CB 500F 2018. I love that bike. It was a great little bike for shooting around town, super torquey, and honestly just a very, very forgiving and good looking bike. I did feel kind of inadequate on the freeway, unfortunately. So after, you know, being in top gear for most of the time, I found that I really like to ride longer rides. I like to be on my motorcycle at a higher speed for a longer duration of time than I had originally anticipated when I first got into motorcycling. So with that in mind, I decided I needed a bigger bike, something more comfortable, something with more power. And I started looking around to some track bikes like the R6, the Ninja 650, but I found that their sitting position was just a little bit too aggressive for how long I want to be on a motorcycle. Started thinking about sport tours, started thinking about adventure bikes, and sort of landed into this sport touring 600cc class. I really like the Yamaha FZ6R because looking at it, it definitely favors the sport side of its genealogy, and I really like that about this bike. Very comfortable to ride, but it doesn't really sacrifice its style, as you can see. I love that. That said, there are some things that I would maybe change if it was up to me. Some of these things are up to me, so more to come on those, but the first thing I'd probably do is change out these handlebars. They are very comfortable. I'm in a very upright sitting position, but sometimes when I'm going around in a corner, I really do wish that I had, you know, a clip on here that I could push down into the turn a little bit more aggressively. Outside of that, another thing I really like is the power band delivery. I can actually stay in first gear for a little while and not feel like I'm, you know, jutting the throttle or, you know, chopping it. It's very smooth all the way through. Sometimes I just have one hand on the bar when I'm riding in first gear. Never would have done that on my 500. Slightest torque and I'd have been, boop, gone. So, yeah, I love that about this bike. It is definitely not as fast as an R6. So if you're thinking, oh, well, this is a more comfortable R6, not the case. An R6 will smoke this bike any day. But I don't need an R6. I mean, I just don't need to go 200 miles an hour, you guys. I like looking cool, going fast, being comfortable, and the FZ6R definitely meets that need. Plus, it's just a good looking bike. You got this black, red, and white color scheme. I don't know what other color schemes they had. I know they had an all black one, which looked pretty cool, but I like this little popping of the red and the white. Also love these tube framings. I think they're steel actually, but they're tube framings. It's a diamond chassis. It really allows for very agile flicking of the bike. It looks very heavy, but it actually feels very light, you know, when you're going at higher speeds. So yeah, that's my bike, and that's a little bit of a story about me as a rider. Now I'm going to take you out. I'm going to show you kind of where I'm at with my shifting. Hopefully you can give me some tips and tricks, things that you think that I'm doing well, things that maybe I need to work on a little bit more. And trust me, there's a lot of room for growth on that. So I'm going to take you with me. We're going to shift up, shift down, talk about what feels good, talk about what I did right, talk about what doesn't feel good, and it's going to be very evident when it doesn't feel good. You guys will see that. It's beautiful out here, so we're just going to go up and down some of these roads. I didn't want to get on the freeway today because if I got at any speed over 25, 30 miles an hour, the wind is just going to make it absolutely unbearable to watch. So going to keep it slow today, but I will be upgrading my microphone, the whole situation, so hopefully we'll get that ironed out so you can talk to me, or I can talk to you rather, on the freeways. All right, guys, here we go. Love that inline floor. So shifting between first and second is honestly the trickiest part of shifting on this whole bike, and I'm sure it's probably the same for most bikes out there. Just the way it's geared, the clutch, you have to rev match really well into second gear and really get that friction zone matched up. Otherwise it's going to feel really jerky. The rest of the gears are a lot more forgiving going into second, going from second to third, third to fourth, so on and so forth. Those are a lot more forgiving, but this first gear to second, here, watch. It's very easy to not be perfect on that. That one wasn't perfect, so it started getting away from me. It pulled out, and going down from second to first. That actually wasn't a bad downshift. If it was a bad downshift, it would have jerked me, and I would have engine braked. Ooh, why did I do that? I shouldn't have done that. Ugh, sketchy, Brad. Why would you do that? Honestly, these speed bumps here, they've thought through this and these are big old boys. All right, let's do it again. That was a pretty good shift. Did you hear it was smooth? There wasn't a lot of deviations in the sound of the bike. You can oftentimes hear a bad shift because it's going to be like, it's not going to be an even distribution of the sound. You can hear it when it catches. So the fact that sounded even, it felt smooth, it tells me it was a pretty good shift. I hope this guy gets out of my way here. All right, so now let's try to downshift. It wasn't bad, but I was pretty much right on the exact RPM to match the rotation of the wheel. And I would have liked to be just a little bit higher so that there was more room for the engine engine brake. It was basically too close for comfort to feel good about that one. All right, let's try this again. There are a lot of pedestrians out here, so I do want to try to be very careful. Going into second gear. That felt pretty good. It could have been better. Man, I'm going to launch myself over one of these speed bumps if I'm not careful. It's pretty fun though. Alright, let's be more careful here. Oh boy. Alright, downshift. Nope, did you see that? So that was over revving and it getting away from me. That was a clearer example of that. You can also tell here I have a little bit of room for growth in my U-turn. Still working on my slow speed maneuvering. My wife has a Ninja 400, and honestly, we could both go and do some more parking lot practice more often. All right, second gear. It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. And for those of you who just aren't sure how to shift on a motorcycle, it's very similar to a manual car, except the controls are laid out in a different fashion. So rather than doing, your clutch with your foot, you got your clutch lever right here. Instead of pushing on the gas with your foot, you got your throttle in your right hand here. And then you have your actual shifter on down here by your foot. So it's kind of a three-part motion. To shift, you basically pull in the clutch, let off the throttle, either push down or push up into the corresponding gear that you desire to be in, and then you let out the clutch and get back on the throttle to ride out the rest of that gear. So that's essentially, it works the same way in a manual car, it's just you're doing it with different parts of your body. So when I'm talking about smoothness, what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to match up all three appendages in a fashion where the clutch engages the engine at the appropriate RPM when I shift up. And it is honestly, or down on it, and it's honestly about the timing. A lot of it's not about the application of actually pulling in the clutch and clicking down on the shifter. A lot of it is the actual moment that you decide to do it. If you downshift really early, for example, if I needed to downshift here, I was already in first gear. All Alright, well, let's get into second then. You know, if I wanted to downshift here, this wouldn't be the appropriate place to do it because I'm slowing down way farther before I get to the position that I need to be in. So it's kind of like you're hitting the brake on your bike, and you're trying to do it at the appropriate point that you want to start slowing down. And a lot of that's about knowing your bike. Okay, so shifting down. Not bad. That was pretty much right on the money again. And again, it's all about how you feel. You'll know when it's not right because it's not going to feel right. Alright, second gear. Alright, I was a little bit delayed getting back on the throttle. You could hear that, I'm sure. Ooh, you guys see that? That's what it looks like. That's what it looks like when you get too aggressive in the downshift. It's a very real risk of just, you know, depending on how torquey your motorcycle is, you could just fling it into space on accident. So you got to be really careful, and that's why I practice this in areas like this. This is why I don't do this on the street if I'm still getting used to a bike, or I'm still getting used to a, you know, a technique of some sort. Let's do a little U-turn here. So far, so good. Oh yeah, that feels good too, guys, when you get a sharp U-turn. At a normal speed anyway, without having to go 2 miles an hour to do it. Alright, second gear. Yep, that was pretty good. I got back on the throttle pretty much right when I needed to. I mean, honestly, guys, I'm shifting a little early here. I should really be bringing first gear to around 7,000 to 8,000 RPMs before I shift up. But I just don't have that kind of room to work with here. My bike can hit, you know, 35 miles an hour in first gear, so I'm not trying to really push it to that red line. Alright, let's go check out some other areas of the marina, work on this a little bit more. I want a little bit more space to work with because these speed bumps are kind of hindering it. Alright, here we go. From second to third though, and that's why. Let's downshift a little here. See, it over rev, bike kind of jumped out a little bit. That was pretty good, but I was in danger of over revving again. It over revved again. So it's just a matter of doing this a lot. You know, you gotta do this a lot to get good at it. And it's all about developing best practices, trying to develop the appropriate techniques so that when you're in a pinch and you're trying to downshift, you can do it and have the downshift not be your problem. You know, have the actual situation be your problem. And utilize the downshift as a technique to avoid catastrophe. Alright, so let's actually putz around town here a little more, maybe get into my lane. Alright, here we go. That was a pretty good shift right there. I feel good about that. Let's downshift. Nope, that wasn't that good. I was short on it. Short on the rev, I mean. So it started engine braking a little bit on me. And you can see what that looks like here. If you're not sure what engine braking is, when I take a turn out of here, I'm just going to let off the clutch here a little bit, and you can see what the bike does. Ready? You see that? You see how it just starts to stop? That's the bike. I'm not even hitting the brakes. The bike just does that. If there is not enough RPM to match the rotation of the wheel, it's going to just naturally slow you down. And it's honestly very effective. It can be very jarring if you're not suspecting it. You could throw your butt right over the front of this bike. That's an interesting specimen. You could throw your butt right over the front of the bike if you're not careful. So that's where I'm at, guys. I honestly have a lot of room left to work on this. I'll be focusing on this primarily. Honestly, my main area of focus is downshifting in the first gear, because you can see I still have a lot of practice to do before that looks smooth. I can get it, but it's luck. I get it Well, it's not always luck. I mean, I am practicing it. I am trying to get better at it. But when I do get it, you know, it's a third of the time. And that is not nearly enough for me to be feeling comfortable on the road. But if you want to look like a badass in every single gear, and you want to have that sweet sound when you're going and just pinging gears down from fifth to first, wham, 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 you know the sound, then you need to practice it. Alright guys, well thanks for hanging out with me today, walking through, meeting me, learning a little bit about my bike, why I chose it, where I'm at in my path of motorcycling. I do again hope to keep releasing videos like this, and again I will upgrade my equipment situation so it's not so god-awful to listen to me. More to come on that. But for now, thanks for checking out my videos, and I'll see you next time.